Episode 266 of the Aggressive Progressive Podcast. I think it all matters. Let's start the show.
We are now the defenders of the stronghold of democracy and of equal opportunity.
You and I, as citizens, have the obligation to shape the debates of our time, not only with the votes we cast, but with the voices we lift.
The people are looking for honest answers, not easy answers.
The very word secrecy is repugnant.
Clear leadership.
And we are, as a people,
not false claims and evasiveness and politics as usual.
Opposed to secret society.
But ours was a nation of the ballot, not the bullet.
And a secret proceedings.
As a people, we cannot afford to let any group of citizens or any individual citizen live or labor under conditions which are injurious to the common welfare.
Black, white, Latino, Asian, Native American, young, old, gay, straight, men, women, folks with disabilities, all pledging allegiance under the same proud flag to this big, bold country that we love. That's what I see. That's the America I know.
Not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
There is nothing wrong with America that cannot be cured by what is right with America.
Welcome to the Aggressive Progressive Podcast. I am your host, Chris Hahn. Thank you for liking, rating, reviewing, telling your friends about the podcast. Man, we had a great week last week. More people listened to us last week than in any other week we've been on podcast. So you're clearly liking and subscribing and telling your friends, so thank you for that. Getting close, America. I don't know why the media grades Trump on a curve. I've been watching these Sunday shows all day Sunday, and it appears to me that they really want to focus on the speck in Kamala Harris's eye while ignoring the tree trunk sticking out of Trump's eye. That's not my lines. It's like Jesus in the Bible. Maybe it wasn't Jesus, but it was somebody in the Bible. I've actually opened the Bible and read it, unlike Donald Trump, who just sold it to you. Bible's made in China, by the way. The Donald Trump version of the Bible, made in China, just like his ties. I wonder if his water was made in China. I wonder if those stupid watches he's selling are made in China. You know, here's the first clue, America, that the guy is a grifter. He is literally trying to sell you things all the time. All the time. I was driving around on Long Island, where I live, last week, and I saw what I thought was a Trump campaign headquarters. And it wasn't. It was a store, like a Halloween store. You know how those Halloween stores pop up? And they're there for like 6 weeks and then they're gone. Well, this was like a Trump store, a pop-up store that was selling Trump flags and T-shirts and other items of Trump memorabilia. It really, I mean, I've been in politics my whole life. Since I was a teenager, I've never seen anything like this before. I've never seen a presidential candidate who was such a grifter that even the people who are so-called followers now are getting in on the grift, right? And look, good for them. God bless America. I'm a capitalist. I think everybody should be able to make money. I just think it's kind of odd that when you're running for president of the United States, you're asking your supporters to buy a $100,000 watch that you probably made in China for about $5. That's just a money grab. I think it's odd that when you were president of the United States, you were asking foreign leaders to stay in your hotel in Washington, D.C. and charging them a rate that was so exorbitant that you had to laugh to think that it wasn't a grift on them. I think it's kind of ridiculous. But more importantly, I think that it's not getting covered, right? I think that we gloss over the plethora. I mean, maybe because there's so much of it, right? There's so much nonsense coming out of the mouth of Donald Trump that the media doesn't even know how to deal with it because it's just a constant barrage. So it's easier for them to say, well, maybe Gretchen Whitmer shouldn't have done that thing with the Dorito. Okay. It was kind of weird, but if we're being honest, it was also kind of hot. So let's just be clear what it was. But she's also not running for president. Yet here we are talking about it, even though on that same night, Donald Trump said 25 things that would have gotten anybody else removed from politics for the rest of their lives. Okay, the man is talking about race theory. The man is talking about using the National Guard and the military, not just to remove people who might be here illegally, but protesters who might be protesting him. Americans protesting. Remember the First Amendment, the United States Constitution? I know that the Republican Party is obsessed with the Second Amendment, but what about the First? You know, the one where we don't establish a religion, the one where you're allowed to protest. I'm like, the media doesn't even cover it. It's not even talked about. They have been grading him on a curve. They've been grading him on a curve since he's come down that escalator. They are of the belief that nothing he says matter. But here's what I'm here to tell you, America. When the race is so close that it's a toss-up, everything matters. Every single thing. Yeah, the Doritos might matter. But what Trump says will matter too. Because it doesn't take much to change this race, America. It's not a major issue that we're looking for. We're not looking for, the end all be all of what may be. What we are looking for is 1% movement in 7 states. And if you're telling me that nothing he says matters and the media is not even covering it, how are they supposed to know? All we're talking about are the minor flaws that we see in Kamala Harris, and we're not talking about the major flaws of Donald Trump. The narcissism, the grifting, the anti-American sentiments, the disrespect for our institutions and our Constitution, and for the right for Americans to protest. I think that they're doing a horrible job covering this man, and they always have. I'm going to talk more about that on the other side. Listen to this. I'll be right back. Welcome back. I am your host, Chris Hahn. I'm at Christopher Hahn on X, Christopher Hahn NY on Instagram, and ChristopherHahn.com. If you're not already watching me on YouTube, please go to my YouTube channel. It's at The Aggressive Progressive on YouTube. You'll see me doing this. Sometimes I'm in my studio. Sometimes I'm just in my office, just trying to, do it when I can. So check me out there. And of course, watch me on News Nation. It is news for all Americans. And I will be on all the time between now and November. I am doing more TV now than probably I've ever done in my life. And I'm no fool. I know that this could end at any moment, which is why I'm trying to branch out, do more things. It's been 15 years and I've been on, relatively regularly for 15 years, like several times a week for 15 years. But TV is a fickle business, and I'm not no spring chicken. And if you're watching me on YouTube, you could probably clearly see that I am not a spring chicken, and this could end at all times, at any time. But I do think that I'd be better at questioning people and holding them accountable than some of these anchors who are really still trying to hold on to a journalistic integrity that I while I admire it, it's not going to work with Trump's people, right? I mean, the Scott Jennings of the world on CNN's, or more importantly, the J.D. Vances of the world. I was watching J.D. Vance with Martha Raddatz on, or maybe it wasn't Martha Raddatz. I was watching him on with somebody today. I think it was Martha Raddatz. And they were questioning him about the election of 2020. Did Trump lose the 2020 election? And J.D. Vance kept saying, well, we've had problems with this election. The major media companies were censoring conservatives. Okay. That doesn't matter. You know why? Because the major media companies are not subject to the First Amendment of the United States Constitution. You do not have the right to say whatever you want on CNN or X or Twitter or YouTube or Channel 7 or ABC, NBC, MSNBC, Fox. No, you're not. They are private companies. They are not state actors. And it's not like the federal government told them not to run the story, because Donald Trump was in control of the federal government in 2020. Yet somehow, every time J.D. Vance goes on a television show, interviewed by the New York Times, interviewed at a debate, he goes on and on about how the Hunter Biden laptop story was censored and the election should be thrown out. I've been on a lot of campaigns. I have worked the refs on every single one of them. Okay, if there was a bad story about my candidate, I would try to get that story buried or taken out. That's your job as a campaign. So what was different in 2020? Nothing. Donald Trump is a whiny little baby who didn't win and has been looking for an excuse for sending a mob to the Capitol on January 6th. And if you want to tell me, J.D. Vance, that Donald Trump deserved to win because Twitter put a little, disclaimer next to tweets about the Hunter Biden laptop story. And let's be very clear, JD. That was a pretty crazy story. And it would be very easy not to believe it. Turns out a lot of it was true. Who cares? Hunter Biden wasn't running for president. His dad was. Okay? And Hunter Biden is a very troubled guy. And you're trying, if Joe was still running for president, Joe Biden was still running for president, you guys would be trying to get this guy to kill himself right now. That's what you would be doing. It's despicable and disgraceful. And I will tell you this right now, J.D. Vance, you have an open invitation to come on my radio show or the Aggressive Progressive podcast so that we can have a real conversation about what happened in 2020. Because nobody on television right now will do that with you. They will not hold you accountable. They will not push back on your BS. And it is complete and total BS. Hunter Biden's laptop would not have changed the election. Had that story gone wide, it wouldn't have changed. The people were deciding whether to keep Trump or get rid of Trump. And they decided to get rid of him, which is why they're not going to bring him back this year either. I keep looking at these polls. They're a toss-up, 3 or 4% undecided everywhere you look. And I'm telling you right now, they are breaking 3-1 for Kamala Harris. She's going to win, and she's going to win easy. We will call this election by 2 a.m. election night. It is not going to happen. Okay? And what's going to be your excuse this time? What's your excuse this time? I'd like to know. Because I know Republicans are trying to change the way we count votes in America right now. Should that give Democrats the right to storm the Capitol? Not to say that we wouldn't. It's a ridiculous thing. It is amazing to me, the efforts that you are going through on the right to suppress the vote in the United States of America. It's amazing to me. It's amazing to me that you spent all of 2021, defending Donald Trump for his challenges to the election because the rules were changed in midstream. Meanwhile, you are literally trying to change the way electoral college votes are counted now in October. I mean, let's be clear. We were in a once-in-a-generation pandemic. Remember, you like to use that as your excuse for your failed leadership in 2020. But no, we can't make any exceptions. So we can't make any changes to the voting so that people who are worried about dying could vote. Once-in-a-generation pandemic allows you to maybe do something different. And the state legislatures and the courts in those states approved it. Yet you still whined and complained and said you were cheated and it was rigged. It wasn't rigged. More people showed up to vote and you lost. And it's going to happen again this year. And you're not going to like it. And you're going to cry foul. And let me tell you something. Come on my show where I will push back in real time. Because these people don't know how to debate. And I do. I've been dealing with you guys for 15 years. And I know how to handle it. Listen to this. I'll be right back. A lot of people have been asking me, will it be better for you if Donald Trump becomes president of the United States? I literally get that question a lot. I mean, every day, almost. And I think that stems mostly from the fact that his presidency the last time definitely brought me a higher level of awareness. I wouldn't say it brought me fame. It didn't. I'm quite aware of who I am and where I am in the pecking order of TV personalities. It is pretty low, I would suggest. Even though I have been on national television now, I'm probably close to 3,000 appearances. I'm on 9 times a week now, maybe 10, depending on the day. And I'm under no belief that this will continue past Election Day. I'm sure I'll be doing 4 or 5 past Election Day, but 9 is a lot. 10 is a lot for just a regular contributor. So, but I keep getting asked the question, will it be better for me personally? And the answer to that is no. And you don't need to look any further than what happened over the weekend. Donald Trump is suggesting that people who oppose him pose more of a threat to this country than any foreign force. Now think about that for a minute. Now, I have been actively opposing Donald Trump since he came down that escalator in 2015. Donald Trump has mentioned me by name on Twitter a couple of times, and then on the late Rush Limbaugh's radio show 5 days, 10 days before the election in 2020, the election he lost. So do I think it will be better for me if Donald Trump becomes president of the United States again? No, I do not. Especially given the fact that the United States Supreme Court has basically said he's a king. He can do whatever he wants, and the only way he could be punished is by Congress. Now, let me just put a little caveat in there for you. The only way he could be punished is by Congress. Anybody who works for him and carries out illegal orders, I don't think that applies to them as well. And I think that's going to be tested very quickly should he become president of the United States. But by the way, he's not. Right? I know that there's a lot of Democrats wetting their pants right now over the NBC News poll that came out yesterday. And that poll basically said that the race is tied, and that was a poll that had Kamala Harris up 4, and her number hasn't changed, and his number has closed. There's still 4% undecided in that poll, and as I have said to you before, and I will say it until the election happens, undecideds are not breaking for Trump. And I do not believe that the polling errors this year are going to be Trump's polling errors, because I know how pollsters work. Okay? Pollsters want to fix what they did wrong 4 years ago. Was there a polling error 4 years ago? Absolutely. It had Joe Biden win the race by like 9 points in some polls, 10 points in some polls. That was never going to be the case. He won it by 2 or 3 nationally. Yeah, I think there'll be a polling error this time, but I think it'll be a Democratic polling error, just the way it was in 2022. Remember the red wave everybody was talking about? Now, by the way, I read the polls, and the polls didn't show a red wave to me in 2022, which is why I was very, very correct about what happened in 2022. So, no, I don't think it's better for me personally to have a man who will think I'm the enemy of the state in the White House, a man who is unbound by any sense of accountability. No, it won't be better for me. And by the way, it won't be better for America either. You think things cost a lot now? Start putting tariffs on everything that come into this country. You think your grocery bill's high now? Wait till the Trump tax takes effect, because the man doesn't really know what a tariff is or how it works. He thinks that the countries that are sending the goods here pay the tariffs. No, the consumers pay the tariffs. The importers pay the tariffs. They pass the price on to you. So if you think for 1 second that tariffs are going to help you. Now, again, there are some places where people are breaking the rules. Tariffs help. But that's not what he's going to do. He's not looking for tariffs that are, breaking the rules, making it harder for American producers to compete. No, he's going to put tariffs on everything, whether there's a fair market or not. Does that apply to oil? Because we import oil. I know that we're a net exporter of oil, but oil is a global commodity. And people who buy oil wherever it is cheapest. They don't care where it comes from. It's a global commodity. There are a lot of other global commodities. Is he going to put a tariff on commodities? I wouldn't put it past him because he ultimately doesn't know what a tariff is. This is the problem with a guy so ignorant and who feels he's so right. Listen to this. Be right back. Welcome back. I am Chris Hahn. I'm at Christopher Hahn on X, Christopher Hahn NY on Instagram, and ChristopherHahn.com. Don't forget to follow me on YouTube. I'm at The Aggressive Progressive on YouTube, doing a lot of this stuff there too. If you ever wanted to know what I looked like while I was doing this podcast, you could check me out on YouTube at The Aggressive Progressive on YouTube and watch me on News Nation. It is news for all Americans, and I'm on there all the time. So we're talking about whether or not Donald Trump would be good or bad for America, or good or bad for me personally, and I'm going to say it again. He will be bad for us all. He will be particularly bad for me, but he will be bad for us all because the man doesn't have a clue about what he is supposed to be doing as president of the United States. He's got no clue, America. He's not a guy who has real deep-seated ideas, right? He changes like the wind. But more importantly, he has no respect for our traditions or our Constitution or our laws or anybody else's opinion for that matter. This is the thing. I mean, it is impossible to have a man be president of the United States who thinks he's right on everything, right? Who is he going to listen to? We have been hearing from people who've worked inside of his administration, high-ranking people like Mark Milley, who was the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, his defense secretaries, all basically calling him out, saying the man is thoroughly unfit to hold office. Yet, all of this doesn't seem to be moving the needle in the polls. But I got to tell you, I don't buy that. This is a game of inches. Where are they paying attention most? Pennsylvania, right? They are paying attention to this most in Pennsylvania. And in Pennsylvania, she's up 3, and there's still 4 undecided. So I think she wins by 5, if that's true. Probably not, because, it's going to be close. But I think she wins by 3. And if she wins by 3 or 4, then my prediction that this is called by 1 a.m. on election night, or 2 a.m. on election night, will come through, right? I believe that by 2 a.m. on election night, we're going to know who the president is. And I think that she's going to win Pennsylvania, and she's going to win North Carolina. Why do I think she's going to win North Carolina? Well, 2 things. One, the Republican candidate for governor there is thoroughly unfit. He has no organization on the ground. His campaign staff has quit. He's going to lose by 10 points. And while I don't believe in downward drags from down ticket, I do believe that you need a field organization in a close election. 2, the lies that he's been telling about FEMA in North Carolina is getting in the way of actual recovery efforts in North Carolina. Militias showing up to stop FEMA from doing their jobs in North Carolina because they are believing lies that are starting with Donald Trump, coming out of his own mouth. I mean, can we just, forget about the lies about FEMA for a second, which are outrageous, right? Because these people need FEMA right now. They need the help right now. Forget about those lies for a second. Let's talk about the fact that this man is saying that Democrats can control the weather. Now, you know how the right wants to say that there's no such thing as man-made climate change? How could Democrats control the weather and there also be no man-made climate change? Those 2 things don't seem to add up, right? I mean, consistency is not a bedrock principle of the right wing in this country right now. I mean, inconsistency seems to be the only thing they are consistent about. They are whatever Trump says, right? That's it. That is who they are. Whatever he says, whatever he thinks at the moment, whatever his addled brain thinks, right? Because the guy is He's losing it. Let's be clear. There's a reason why he's not releasing his medical records. He's not releasing his medical records because he's 78 years old. I mean, we think. I don't know for sure. I still haven't seen his birth certificate because the guy lies about everything else. Why wouldn't he lie about his age? I am considering lying about my age. I don't lie about anything, really. I'm considering it, right? Because I'm in a medium where it matters. He's been in that medium, too, for a long time. You don't think he's shaved a couple of years off at some point in his career? I bet you he has. I bet you he's over 80 already. And I know I'm saying this with a little bit of tongue-in-cheek, but not really. I would like to see his birth certificate. And I think he should basically say to the New York City, Department of Health, please release my birth certificate to whoever asks for it so that we get it right from them if he's truly 78. He's probably like 82. It's not that much of a difference, but, there was one point in his life where he was like pushing 50. And he said, maybe I should be 45. Right? I mean, I wouldn't put it past him, would you? I mean, the fact that you're thinking about it right now means it's something that we should say. But look, he's not going to release his medical records because I'm sure they're a train wreck. He's old. He doesn't have a healthy diet. And I don't know, those two things don't really add up to healthy person, right? Doesn't add up to a doctor giving him a clean bill of health. Now, remember that fake doctor he used in 2016? The guy was a maniac. Where's that guy? Can he get that guy? What about Dr. Ronnie Jackson, Dr. Feelgood? Oh, he's in Congress now? He can't practice medicine. It's beneath him to examine the president, the guy who said he would live to 200 years old. And he's a congressman now. See, this is the problem on the right. Nothing matters to them. Everybody's dug in. People on the left might be dug in as well, but not as much. We would kick people out for being idiots like that. I know I would. I just think that, I just think that the guy is losing it. And he belongs to a party that only goes along with whatever he says. I mean, it's scary when you really think about it. I mean, the guy is a little deranged. I mean, probably more than a little. And he's definitely lost several steps since he came down that escalator in 2015. Right? Several. I mean, I think he's approaching Biden territory. And I'm not meaning that in a good way. I think Biden, at least his heart, started in the right spot, right? And I think he still is in the right spot. But he's clearly lost a couple of miles per hour off his fastball. Donald Trump is right there. And Donald Trump is older than Joe Biden was when Joe Biden became president. And we're pretty sure that Joe Biden wasn't lying about his age because, Joe Biden's been in American politics since he was too young to serve in the United States Senate and had to wait a couple of months to have his birthday and then get sworn in. We don't really know how old Donald Trump is, do we? I mean, I don't really feel like I believe it. I know tongue-in-cheek a little bit, but it's plausible, very, very plausible that he's lying about his age. And he might be even older than he's telling us. God knows he looks it. All right. I'm going to remind you now, as I always do, to seek the truth, to question everyone and everything, even me. Seek the truth. I know it's out there, and I know you'll find it if you look for it. And I'll be back here again next week to tell you the truth as I see it. I'm Chris Hahn. Thanks for listening to the Aggressive Progressive Podcast.